Thanks for joining our live special coverage of the G7 Hiroshima Summit 2023. I'm Dami in Seoul. It's day 2 of the Group of 7 summit in the western Japanese city of Hiroshima. President Yoon Suk Yeol is there to speak at expanded G7 session on Saturday. Our top office correspondent Soo-young is at the International Media Center to fill us in. Good afternoon, Soo-young.
Hi there, Dami.
So, Soo-young, President Yoon will participate in his first G7 session summit today. So what is he expected to highlight today?
Well, Dami, President Yoon is expected to attend his first expanded session of the G7 summit here in Hiroshima. He's expected to really reaffirm South Korea's growing interest and role in global affairs as he takes part in the expanded session. Now, that's due to happen in a couple of hours, and it will be the first of the so-called outreach session, which is going to invite 8 guest countries, including South Korea, Australia, India, among others, to discuss food security, health, and gender issues and development as well. And President Yoon is expected to voice South Korea's position on these matters. And, well, according to his office, he's really going to highlight official development assistance. This, of course, makes sense as his administration's Indo-Pacific strategy looks to expand partnerships with emerging economies to bolster stability and prosperity based on liberal democratic values that he always emphasizes. A second session is going to open later in the afternoon, focusing on climate, energy and the environment. While the G7 summit itself opened yesterday, Saturday is the first day that the invited nations take part in the discussions. So President Yoon will be among the leaders that Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida greets also in a welcoming event early in the afternoon. Then there's going to be a banquet in the evening.
Right, and before taking part in the G7 sessions, President Yoon has been keeping himself very busy with separate bilateral summits on the side as well, right, Soo-young?
That's right. He's on something of a diplomatic marathon here in Hiroshima, and he has a couple of bilaterals lined up today on Saturday, as he did yesterday. And his meetings include those with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, as well as the PM of the United Kingdom, Rishi Sunak. And he just had a bilateral with the leader of India this morning. We have yet to hear details about that, but of course I'll be updating you throughout the day. And, well, he's again on quite a diplomatic streak here, and these meetings that he's having, they're very significant because they are again part of his Indo-Pacific outreach to countries as he looks to bolster security cooperation against North Korea's threats, but also to enhance economic security as well, due to the sort of trade and supply chain disturbances that we're seeing due to geopolitical conflicts. Now, that's something that he really emphasized on Friday when he met with the Prime Ministers of Australia and Vietnam in separate bilateral meetings. Yoon and Australian leader Anthony Albanese, they agreed to ramp up value-based communication as well as cooperation on critical mineral supply chains, very important for future technologies, as well as national security and defence technology. In his meeting with Pan Min-chin, the two leaders agreed to bolster trade and economic cooperation and pursue ODA projects together. The Vietnamese leader expressed appreciation for Seoul's ODA and said that he hopes to expand such projects, especially those in finance, technology and human development, along with exchanges in digital technology and science.
Sure, and of course, the biggest question is if a trilateral summit between South Korea, the U.S. and Japan is actually going to happen, right? Tell us more about that.
Indeed, so that really is the big question here. And obviously, the leaders of South Korea, Japan and the US, they've been very eager to have this trilateral meeting, really to build on the summit that they had last November in Cambodia, where they agreed to ramp up security and economic cooperation. And of course, they're facing a lot of growing threat from North Korea, along with regional instability as well, due to the geopolitical rivalry between the United States and China. All of those things they would probably discuss if they were to meet. And, well, obviously, since last November, since they last met, Seoul and Tokyo have seen a tremendous improvement in relations, working to restore security and economic cooperation after President Yoon presented a plan to compensate Korean wartime forced labor victims of Japanese companies through voluntary funding. And while going forward, the three countries are really going to want to check in on the progress of their three-way cooperation and discuss how to take things further, also possibly discuss the regional challenges mentioned before arising from geopolitical instability and China's growing economic coercion, of course, and naval presence in the South China Sea, which is being discussed by the G7 countries here in Hiroshima. And it's quite uncertain yet whether the meeting would produce a joint statement by South Korea, Japan and the US if the meeting happens. But most pundits say that it's quite unlikely that there will be such a landmark outcome. The meeting is very likely to be highly symbolic and significant, but as for tangibles or any kind of concrete details coming out of the meeting, we're going to have to see. We know that all the leaders' diaries are fully packed, especially with President Joe Biden, who would most likely have a one-on-one with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who's expected to arrive in Hiroshima Saturday evening. That's all from me for now, so let's wait and see what happens.
All right, but you'll be there in Hiroshima to keep us updated. Thanks, Soo-young.